Palim, and welcome to the next episode of This Ain't a Dating Show XXX. This time we are reaching out far to the other end of the world, to Singapore, where is living Janice Lee. She's a business consultant for sex tech and femtech. What that means exactly, she will tell us, and a sexual wellness advocate in Southeast Asia. Maybe I should even say she is the sexual wellness advocate for Southeast Asia, because there are most probably not too many ladies that are that brave in this patriarchic market to teach about sexual education, about sex tech. And with these references, she has also a deep knowledge how the dating market is functioning, or how dating is functioning in these markets. So I'm very happy that you take time today to speak with us. Like usual, Janice is an old friend of mine since 5 years. I'm not sure if I'm simply friend with everybody or only friends are accepting my invite to speak here. So Janice, pleasure to speak with you after a few years in person again. So that was my intro of you. So please explain a bit in your words what you are doing, and especially what sex tech, femtech, and sexual wellness advocate means for the people that don't know it, like me. I don't know that.
Sure. Okay, thank you, Stefan, for inviting me to be part of this show. I'm based in Southeast Asia, but I've lived in 45 countries. I speak English, Chinese, Spanish, and Cantonese. So, and I've lived in Romania. That's how, in Bucharest, that's how I got to know Stefan. Great guy.
Hi there.
Yeah, great guy. And we've come some way, a long way, and right now we tend to be converging in a similar industry, in the sexual wellness space. That's what I like to think about it. So, when you say that, what is sex tech and femtech? It's something that, especially for femtech, it has been like for the last I would say since I came back to Asia for about 5 years ago, 4 years plus ago, it's been gaining a lot of ground. Is relating to sensitive feminine health and led by women. So like we call them femtech. And sex tech as, so it's anything that combines something and technology we're talking about. So femtech can be the pleasure part on pleasure, like sex toys, as well as lubricants and, something that's a bit more technology enabled that is integrated with the product. Or the other part that's very popular in femtech is on the fertility side. So you have like apps that measure period cycles, menstrual cycles, and then your ovulation, so that they can help you to plan and to record the data for pregnancy purposes, or for female sensitive issues like endometriosis and other kinds of problems. It's help basically to detect, So that's
this kind of this femtech stuff, I can imagine that it's very fast accepted in Southeast Asia or in Asia, because it's like something like health related. I think the people have no problem with that. But you started your career with selling sex toys or presenting sex toys in, I'm not sure if mall is the correct word, but how were the people reacting when you were there with sex toys? I don't think it was like gigantic butt plugs or something like this, or like more dildos. It was more like sophisticated stuff. But it's maybe for the people in Southeast Asia as shocking as if you would put in Germany now a big horse dildo. So
I think Germany is definitely a little bit like way more advanced than us, but in Singapore itself, I would say that I started off, I entered this industry by chance, and I met my first client, which is the brand Vito. So I was helping to sell toys in a pharmacy in Singapore.
A pharmacy, okay.
Yeah, in a pharmacy in Singapore. And, like I was trying to show people hey, we have new products during Christmas and New Year. And they were pretty interested when they say something new. But once they saw that there were sex toys, straight away, they blushed. And they were like, the more I talked to them, the more they were retreating away from me.
And was this behavior like this from the man or from the woman, or everybody was like a little bit like Everybody.
Everybody. It's something that there's a huge taboos, as I was saying, like relating to sex and sexuality, especially in societies that are patriarchal, not just in Southeast Asia, but any society that's patriarchal. So we never talk about like self-pleasure, masturbation. We never even take a look at our bodies or get to understand our bodies except in biology class, and only during our sex education only comprises of biology, and it does, and also basically the non-sexy part of it. They never tell you about the pleasure. They only tell you about like you could get pregnant, you could get STDs. So there's a lot of abstinence, a lot of abstinence, a lot of scaring tactics that don't have sex because you're going to have STDs, or don't have sex because you're going to get pregnant. But as teenagers, obviously we are the opposite of the spectrum, right? So
when you go in the sauna in Singapore or all these countries, you stay dressed in the sauna?
Okay, so we have an onsen that's more like Japanese style. So we have it's divided. Okay, it's not like in Germany or in Netherlands, for instance. There's some countries whereby it's mixed genders, but for us it's divided, and you can choose to be naked, or you can wear like a paper undies, that they provide to you. So yeah, I've actually heard a very interesting story, on this particular onsen in Singapore, which I'm not going to name. There are activities that's going on, that was being shared to me by a friend who's gay. He's gay, and he went to this onsen, and he was chatted up by some males, and apparently there's some activity going on in this onsen, which I wasn't aware of.
It's something like I don't know, like a hidden gay club. It's like one of their meeting places, because it's maybe to is homosexuality allowed in Singapore, or you get the stick? I mean, the stick on your ass, not in the ass.
So this is a very, very good question. I mean, unfortunately, we still have the penal code. I can't remember the exact number. I should know the number. I think 307 or 317.
It's enough to say, like, if you go there, don't do it if you want.
No, it's illegal. Okay, it's effectively illegal for homosexual marriages and of relationships in Singapore. Like, it's illegal, but on a day-to-day, you will see gay couples coming out and holding hands and showing affection. I think this is something that is still tolerated. They don't clamp down on it, okay? But it's still illegal.
And even when there is maybe no penalty from the state to it, but how are the people, the citizens, are reacting to this? If two men are working now hand in hand on the streets of Singapore, are people maybe spitting on the ground when they see them, or are they like gossiping, or is like in the meantime? I mean, Singapore is one of the, one of the most flamboyant cities or states in the world. When I was there also 5 years ago, I think, and only for one day, but it was like very opulent festival of cultures. So are the people there like such a wild mix of nations that they accept it, or are the people really having a problem from society?
Okay, so I think what I can observe that is getting better. Attitudes and behaviors are more accepting, okay, more tolerated and accepting. We're a multicultural society. So Singapore, for those who might know, we are a tiny red dot, okay, like super small, of 5.5 million on a 800 square kilometers, less than that in terms of land size. But in terms of like with tall buildings, skyscrapers, and as you can see, Marina Bay Sands is very popular. So appearing very modern and progressive, but there are some of these views relating to sex and sexuality, LGBTQIA. Unfortunately, I think we are pushing towards, like a more open and inclusive society. Like the people are pushing. There's a lot more alternative media, and people are speaking up, talking about like they're coming out, not being in a closet. They wanted to talk about love and the freedom to choose who to love. So there's been a lot of there's a lot of people who's for, like everybody should have the freedom to choose who to love, right? Regardless of your sexual orientation. And we have been pushing for the penal code, the government to abolish that, okay? Because it's archaic, but it's something that it has been very difficult, and still the penal code is, is still there. The government is not enforcing it, but when we talk about the people, I think by and large, when two men hold hands, so far from I hear from my gay friends, in today's times, like in modern times, is better. In the past, definitely people will,
and if you are gay and you want to meet somebody, these saunas and maybe like bars where like preferences of visitors
yeah.
are the only ways, I assume, because we have dating products in Singapore and they are very conservative. So stuff that we do in other countries, we don't do in Singapore. We have, for example, a lot of BDSM. We have female gay products we don't have, but there are many gay products around the world. So I assume that there are no gay dating sites that are tailor-made for Singapore, and even the normal dating sites are like not allowed to be like sexual dating.
Actually, there are gay dating sites, from what my friend has shared with me. There are gay dating sites. There's also venues for them, like certain clubs are very pro, like it's more catered for the gay community, which is great, And then the sauna thing, I think, is something that after COVID has really made life really difficult for the majority of us, especially when you cannot socialize, when you can't go out to date. And masturbation became the safest form of pleasure, right?
So when you were now in the pharmacy, the people were a bit more open about your toys in COVID?
I can say that the pharmacy sales has increased, like a bit more steadily over the years, since I started almost like 5 years ago when I first got back to Singapore, returned to Singapore. But in general, the trend in the last 2 years since COVID hit us is there's a huge shine on the sexual wellness industry. Like we're talking about sex toys, lubricants, fertility apps, STDs. Like there's a huge.
Are there sex shops in Singapore?
Of course. In fact, Singapore is one of the few countries in Southeast Asia that has is legal for toys, sex toys. They're considered
really?
massagers.
So other countries are not allowing sex toys?
You'll be surprised. Okay, think about Thailand. You would think that Thailand itself is very open, and in my opinion, it has a lot of it has a very open attitude, it seems, towards LGBTQIA. But sex toys are illegal in Thailand.
Sex toys are illegal in Thailand. Wow.
Yeah.
In Indonesia, most probably, as well, as a Muslim country.
Yes, it's also illegal unless it's registered as a medical device.
As a medical device?
Yes, as a medical device. So there are sexual aids, we call them, not sex toys only, that help in certain problems. Like some people have problems in having sex, so then they will have certain aids to help them. Yeah. So most countries are illegal.
Wow.
Hong Kong and Singapore are legal. Okay. But Hong Kong is not, it's considered South Asia. But in the rest of Southeast Asia, it's all illegal, to be honest.
So Malaysia, most probably the same.
Malaysia is Malaysia is a country that again it is a Muslim, and I would say that they have not called out that it's illegal outright, but it's a little bit gray, because anything that's phallic looking, okay, would not pass the test. Like,
I mean, this is now not so much your country, but it's also Asia, and you are like the expert in this. How is it in Japan? Because I was in Japan, and I was there in the sex shop, and it was crazy wild. Everybody of there belongs into prison from the things that I saw. They're like really like pedophile encouraging, like crazy. But I think in porn movies, they are also not allowed to show something that is phallus looking like. That's why they have the octopus. Maybe you know how they handle this.
No, definitely in Japan itself, it's like I would say Japan is a country of its own. I have traveled there. I have Japanese friends. I've learned a little bit about their culture. From what I observe and discuss with some friends, Japanese friends, is that they have a very they have a public self, a private self, and an underground self. So anything related to the different kinks that you're talking about is socially accepted. Okay, it's something that you go to the sex shops and like to certain cafes whereby there's maid cafes. Just dress up like young girls, below the age of 20 years old, teenagers, and
I was there.
yeah.
I was there, and
So
I was thinking they are all like middle 20, and I asked one of these girls with my she was replying with like very bad English. I was saying like here is not allowed to drink alcohol. What you do later on, we go for a bar and have a drink. And she says, me no drink alcohol. And I said, why, you have a problem with the liver? She said, no, me, I don't know, 14, 15 years old. And I was like,
yeah,
okay, but you cannot tell the age with Asian women as easy maybe as it's with others. They can be from I mean, you are also, I mean, I will not say it, you can say it yourself, but you look like 15 years younger than what you are
thank you,
really are.
Stefan. Yeah,
No, really.
yeah,
No ass kissing. It is like this. People can comment now and guess your age, and the winner
yeah,
will get
win
nothing.
a
He will
toy.
get a
Yeah.
like.
No, win a toy from me. Like I'm happy to send a
But
toy over.
people from Thailand cannot participate because they are not allowed to receive it.
There's a risk that it can be kept confiscated at the customs. Okay, so there's always a risk there. I'm just saying that these countries are illegal to bring in sex toys, so it's a lot harder to do B2B business in those markets, right? But back to Japan, okay, like I said, it's something that is a very misogynistic, very repressive culture, and it comes out. They have a lot of stress and they do not know how to express themselves. They are overworked, and a lot of them spend long hours at the office, so they turn to like online sites, gaming, porn sites, anything that manga, anime that is like very wild, like hentai, the crazy octopus kind of sex with monsters. So they were the ones who made this very popular. It's called hentai, and it's something that it combines their it's like if you cannot express yourself, it has to come out in a different way, and it tends to come out in sex and sexuality. So for them, it's somehow acceptable. And in all these cafes, and I'm not agreeing with it, okay? I'm just saying that this is a part of their culture that they come up with, and their porn. Like when you type in Asian porn, there's a very high percentage that is relating to Japanese porn. When you look at Asian porn, like for instance, like Stefan, like I've explained to you, when people look at me when I was living overseas in Europe and South America, and I can see their eyes ding 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 ding, like the man, straight away I'll be like, I know you must be thinking of like you must be watching this Asian porn, but there's Japanese porn. I happen to be from Singapore, and there's a different Asian country.
So there is no Singapore porn, nothing.
There is.
There's no.
There
There is
is.
Singapore porn.
Okay. If you search for the country, there's Singapore porn, Korean porn, Malaysia porn. There is. But if you by and large the history of porn, Japanese has one of the longest, because even in the traditions, they have always been very open.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's this famous picture, The Dream of the Fisherman's Wife. Maybe you know it. Dream of the Fisherman's Wife.
No, I'm
and
not
it's
sure.
like a girl, like the Japanese, the ancient Japanese painting with the samurais and sumus. It is painted different than if you look, for example, at the same picture that was made in Europe at the Renaissance or something like that. It's like you look at it and you say like, this shit was made in Europe, this is in Japan. And there is this Dream of the Fisherman's Wife, and it's like this Japanese woman, and she's like this, and then an octopus is giving it to her. But this is like 200 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like really like a huge tradition of presenting erotic porn in whatever way with everything they had available.
Yeah, it's basically erotica. If you trace the history, they have depicted it in a lot of their pictures. It's like erotica, we call them. Yeah.
Erotica is all this erotic stuff, but not like real pornography.
I don't. Okay, so the thing is that when we talk about erotica, it's not necessary. It can be visual. It's not hardcore porn. Like, okay, for me, pornography basically, I mean, it's made by men for men, and heterosexual men a lot. Like you're talking about very patriarchal. Like the pleasure is focused on mere pleasure. There's a huge pleasure gap. It's always about the filming by the men for men. Okay, there's a huge emphasis on giving pleasure to the men, and the women. It's very unrealistic. A lot of the porn, I'm not saying all porn that's made, but a lot of porn is not realistic. And like I have explained in my interviews previously in Singapore, it's not to be regarded as Bible. But what happens is that porn addiction is actually become a WHO, one of the top addictions in the world, and Japan is one of them. It's one of the main countries.
Yeah, I can imagine this.
Yeah.
Also, the girls that I saw there, they were telling me that the Japanese men, they are very often, of course, it's not like a general rule, but the percentage is like incredible more high than in another country. They are like afraid of the girls, of the sexual act. They are living at home until they are like 35 or whatever, and they stay virgin until a very long time. And because we all have desires, we cannot sweat it out. They escape towards this manga and hentai
Yes.
things.
So if you think about
I
it,
see this also with some friends of mine. I have some friends that are really enjoying this kind of things. If you are watching it now, I know what is going on with you.
Okay, the thing is that everybody has a different kink, okay, and I'm not going to judge someone's kink. I do draw the lines at certain kinks, like pedophilia and bestiality, okay, because there's no consent.
Yeah, that's really.
We need to talk about consent boundaries. But in pornography, there's no consent and no boundaries, right? It's basically dramatized. So it's film. You can learn some tricks. I'm not saying you don't, but to actually use it as a Bible. And when you're talking about the younger generations, not so much for Stefan and myself, we're now 40s. So you're talking about like the Gen Z, 25 years old and below, and then the Gen Y, 25 to 35. They're more exposed to the Internet of Things. So then everything is bombarded, through like watching something and learning, Googling something and watching something. So there's the information, because in schools and in families, it's still very taboo. They don't learn anything about it. And between friends, you never really talk about things like that. Like it's a very hot topic. It doesn't necessarily happen just for Asia. It's the same everywhere. That's patriarchal in nature for the society, I would say. Yeah. So what happens is that you don't talk about it. So the men, what happens is that they grew up basically very silent. They retreat to their online world, and then they will start watching all these things and think that this is normal. Okay. And when it's normalized, they do not know how to interact with human beings, basically. So they use dating apps, they use pornography, they use anything that's online, and they hide behind, this virtual identity. And they become like they want to express whatever they want to express, and becomes, think about it, the more repressed you are, like when somebody tells you can't do all this, then you keep this and build this all up, and become so suppressed, and then after you let it all out, so it becomes very dark. And it's something that we need to address. Basically, it's basically inability, because of this misogynistic culture, patriarchal culture, whereby the men have to perform certain societal expectations. They cannot show their emotions. They always have to succeed with their money, material success. They have to provide. There's this huge, like pressure and stress on a man. So I would say that we need to we basically need to change the mindset, remove the taboos, and balance a little bit about the gender parity. Right now, the gender roles are not, and this translates a lot in sex in the bedroom. Okay, I can tell you, the roles in the workforce for sure there is, but sex in the bedroom is something that has never really been talked about. Like, we are talking about gender equality, but sexual violence has never been high on anybody's radar until COVID hit. Stefan, in the last 2 years, if you look at the top 3 Google searches, sex toys. Okay, pornography. I mean, in Italy, when the COVID hit, that they offered free. Okay, for
Yes,
the
I remember that. I remember that because Italy was, I think, the first country
first
that went into
country.
like full lockdown, and Pornhub that is always like really on point with marketing. So
Yeah.
I have some people from the main company of Pornhub from MindGeek here watching maybe. So shoot outs to your marketing team, but you know that
I want
anyway
to,
yourself.
yeah. So, like Pornhub, I have to salute you for doing a great job in marketing, you know, because you never have to rely on external data. Your data is amazing. Again, doesn't
Yeah.
have to, you know, and this is how porn drives, sex drives the rest of the industries, right? Like the Internet of Things. But I mean, Pornhub, if you're listening, I would love to work with you to see how we can, you know, create content that is more directed at closing the pleasure gap, what we call porn made for women, for couples, for LGBTQIA, for everybody. That is in a more realistic fashion, but something that is more sex positive. You know, that
I mean,
to close the pleasure gap.
we will anyway link your contact details under this video, and of course, I tag you also in all the social media posts where I have it. So I know that there are people that could use your services for sure, and you show here now all the skills. What we skipped was a little bit a category that we have. Tell me, it's A/B questions to know you a little bit more about the topic. Is so interesting also for me because I'm not working in this market beside Singapore, but we are scratching it most probably only on the surface, and soon we will have also Taiwan. That we skip this category, but I put so much effort into this question, so we have to do it. So
Sure.
I ask you, and you answer either A or one. You
A or B,
prefer
right?
A or one? Yeah, that's bullshit. If
A
not
or
A or
B,
one,
A or B,
A or B.
A
Yeah.
or B. Yeah.
So
Okay.
the first question is: you prefer to live in Latin America or Europe?
Both I would love to. Yeah, but for now, okay, Europe for now. Yeah,
Europe.
closer to
Then
home.
closer to home. Yeah, indeed. Then when you write, you prefer to write with the Chinese or the Latin alphabet?
My first language is English, so alphabet. Yeah,
So
alphabet.
the normal alphabet. Yeah.
Yeah, B.
Then I know that you are also like a really big foodie, especially with healthy food. So cooking yourself or getting spoiled with food?
A. Cooking myself.
Cooking
Yeah.
yourself. And A is breakfast and B is dinner. What you prefer?
My favorite meal is brunch. Can I do brunch? Okay,
we count it
A,
for breakfast.
A,
A. And then I know that you are doing, beside consulting for companies, also a lot of work with people directly. I saw like the last post, I think, was a workshop with some woman called Moon Mom, I
Moon
think,
mother.
or Moon
Yeah.
Mother. So you prefer to work with private persons, private clients, or with companies?
Companies.
Companies.
B2B. B2B. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
No, I know my skill set. I know my worth. I can do private clients, which I do as a sexual wellness advocate. But I would like to do things that it can, you know, more business, makes use of my business skills as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you have a very big business background because before you started traveling and living there at more alternative lifestyle, you were fitting into the office lady thing. Then for skincare, coconut oil or creams?
Coconut oil. That's how I
Coconut
stay so
oil
young.
for the win, yeah.
Is the answer. Yeah.
And you prefer from your task sets more selling or more educational and training tasks?
Uh, B.
B,
Education.
education.
Yeah.
Okay, now something that should have been done in the first 3 minutes, we have done after half an hour, but it's okay. So we go into the next questions. Some of them you already answered now, so I have to improvise a little bit. Let's see if I'm a good moderator. Yeah. Okay, the first one we already answered. The second one is, what's the most important thing when men use online dating services, apps, website in Southeast Asia, are they looking for love, for sex, or simply to fight against being lonely? What is for sure the second one, a big topic after COVID?
Okay, if you look at the I myself have used dating apps. Okay, I have paid for dating apps as well. From what I see,
you have paid even.
yes, I've paid for.
In which countries?
I paid for Tinder. Tinder by far is still one of the most popular. A lot of people don't pay, but there's a lot of men who actually pay for dating apps that's relating to Tinder, Bumble, and then there's also like local ones, like Hinge that's used overseas in Southeast Asia. I'm talking about. So I would say when you use these dating apps, right, there's the men will generally pay because will pay more. The women not so. I've realized that the men will tend to pay more because the thing is that for the women they give a little bit more how do I say, like more benefits to the women, like, but they get the money from the men. So if you look at dating apps like Tinder, Hinge, and Bumble, tend to be something that the men will pay more than the women, from what I see. But when it comes to then we also have like non-traditional dating apps. Okay, dating services, I would say, like we have a Sugar Book, which is the one of the most popular, founded by Singaporean from Malaysia. In Malaysia, it's called Sugar Book. It really hit the news in the last few years and became really popular. Okay, sugarbook.com. It's popular
So it's
in
a
Malaysia.
sugar daddy website.
It is a sugar daddy and a sugar mommy. So when you say sugar
mummies.
So you want to be sugar baby or you want to be sugar daddy or mommy. So it gives you the option. Okay.
Sugar mommy.
And for research purposes, I myself have tried it. Okay.
But you signed up as a sugar baby or a sugar mama?
Yeah, that's a good question. You should ask. No, I signed up as a sugar baby, but I was very upfront about my age, and there were still quite a few inquiries. Everybody has different kink, but I didn't go out on any dates because I was not comfortable with it. Even though, like, I was very open to tell them what I'm doing for a living, and this is something that like is part of my research, and I would like to get to know the people who use this. But I wasn't comfortable with this monetary transaction personally. Okay, because it's something
how it would function. Sugar daddy dating is nothing that we have in our portfolio, but I see it coming more and more on the market. How it functions. So the man is agreeing with the woman on a fixed amount for a meeting. This includes sex or only like
you can talk about your terms and conditions, whether it's touching, no kissing, no nothing, just a meal for the first date, how many hours, where the date happens. So
always has to include money. Otherwise, it's not a sugar daddy thing. So otherwise, it's like
yes, it has to include money. Okay, this and the tagline of this website is talk about something about transactions and where about money, right? So it's transactional and it talks about money. So it's very, very specific. And a lot of the sugar babies are in their 20s. And many of them, Sugar Book and OnlyFans.com. OnlyFans has also become really popular in Southeast Asia because of the pandemic. Many people have lost their jobs. Okay. And, they turn to something that's easier because there are people who don't. There are people who show nude photos of themselves, naked photos, but there are people who also show like day-to-day, like, sexy photos or, things that are cute. So it really depends.
Like stuff they would maybe even upload on Instagram.
Yes, precisely. So, but because of the pandemic, a lot of the young girls have actually turned to OnlyFans. Started with Instagram, then they use their Instagram as a platform to, redirect them to the OnlyFans. So basically, the Instagram may not have a lot of people, like they keep a page, but most of their followers is basically to redirect them to OnlyFans. And you see a lot of many young girls, and they have been interviewed in our Singapore media. Like we have alternative media like Rise Media that showcases like the real Singaporeans. how society in Singapore is like, right?
The
So
sarong party girls.
the silent particle is something that's very passé, you know, Stefan. Right now, it's
What it
even
was, it was 5 years ago. You told me about it. It was a
yes,
big thing. What
it,
was it?
no, sarong particle. It was a pretty big thing, but now like it's like, you know, it has become a thing of, it's not as popular because as we become more mixed and we have like all kinds of it doesn't become so people don't, you know, focus on like if you're a
But what
Caucasian.
was it? What was
Oh,
it, sarong
sarong
party?
particle. So imagine, okay, like imagine when you go to like a tropical country in Asia, usually Thailand, because it does its marketing very well. You go, it's called sarong particle. So sarong is basically a pareo, you know, that you cover when you go to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
So it's people who go to the beach and party, drink, you know, and they dress in a certain, usually skimpy manner, uh, and they tend to refer to girls who favor Caucasian men, who go out with Caucasian men because they have the money and they have a certain prestige. Okay, this is sarong party girl SPG is something that has happened. It's a phenomenon, a cultural thing that has happened like maybe more than 20 years ago during my time. Like more than 15 years ago, it was popular, but
Ah,
now we don't use the term so much anymore. So basically, it's to say that a beautiful young woman who dresses in a certain manner, usually like sexy manner, and they tend to, you know, be the eye candy, like they usually hang on to the arms of these
mm,
Caucasians who tend to be older or tend to be like not very cute in your home country, and they come to Asia, they become like, you know, super popular. All of a sudden, we
yeah.
get a lot of this. So that spans like white fever, yellow fever. So we have this like white fever and yellow fever. And now you'll be surprised. There's a lot of Chinese, a lot of rich Chinese, and a lot of rich Indians who come here. So there's also brown fever and, you know, Chinese fever. It's changing right now. Like you'll be
And
surprised.
if
Yeah.
somebody's coming from Africa or Afro American, they have the black fever then. So it's really like a very racial categorizing
Yeah,
in the end of the day that is happening here.
which is not healthy because it's still by the skin color, right?
Mm.
But this is something that they tend to talk about, like yellow fever or white fever. You know, yeah, this happens very common. Like you see a white guy and an Asian girl, you know. But these days, I would say that, you know, it's a lot more international. People are much more open, and it doesn't matter whether you're brown or white or yellow. You know, it becomes much more. I would say diverse. It becomes much more diverse. So the SPG sarong party girl doesn't really exist before. I have been called a sarong party girl in the past before when I was in my 20s. Okay, and I had like Singaporean ex-boyfriends and ex-fiance, but they tend, because of my look, you know, I'm very dark. My English is very good. Like I tend to speak first language English. I tend to be classified as a sarong party girl. And then I went out with a few white men, and then they're like, okay, you must be a sarong party girl, even though my ex-fiance was Singaporean Chinese, and they just had this impression. Yeah.
Mm. So really, you have like very easy like stereotypes that you
Yes.
can end up maybe even faster or for sure faster than in other countries or in other
Yes.
regions. When the people are using dating websites and this kind of things, or in general, is it that they still use a desktop, or is a desktop computer or laptop for this kind of things totally out, and everything that is erotic related move to the phone because it's more secure, it's your personal device. The laptop is maybe shared with the entire family. You have browser history where they find out all the kinky stuff you like. So dating sites, erotic sites, and so on are mostly consumed on mobile devices, or is desktop still something that they are doing?
Okay. If you're talking about like Asia alone, we have a very high percentage of mobile phone users, and it's very high tech. To be honest, we are always changing the latest phone, right? So
Mm-hmm.
everything is done on the phone. Like everything you buy, you grab, you know, everything is done on the phone. It's very technology enabled, including countries like India. There's a very high social media, you know, usage in Indonesia, in India, for instance, right? So everything is done on the phone or the iPad or like a tablet, I would say. They do as well on the laptop, don't get me wrong. Like when you watch Netflix or when you watch porn, like, you know, you need a bigger screen, for instance. They still do it at night. But I would say any dating, if you're thinking of doing up something, a tech company to offer, you have to make sure it's mobile as well as desktop friendly.
So mobile first.
If you ask me, I will do mobile first, because the mobile is glued to the person, you know, 24/7. The laptop, and a lot of some of them use it for work, so they will not use it at work, right? And by the way, porn is illegal. Porn sites are illegal in Singapore.
In Singapore, and I think in Thailand as well.
In Thailand, in a lot of the countries, porn is illegal. You use VPN. There are some porn sites that, you know, somehow become, as in you can access them, but generally porn sites are illegal, and they have a
It's most probably the small one that's fly a little bit under the radar.
Yeah, like
and
Pornhub is for sure illegal. Okay, Pornhub is illegal.
Yeah, but if you have something like that is maybe not implementing the name what it is, for example, from the Pornhub family is also Tube 8, what is like a smaller one, maybe the smallest they have. And Tube 8 is not saying something about porn or sex or so. So this maybe flies a bit more under the radar. Yeah, but most probably Tube 8 it's for sure also too big, but just as an example, how it maybe functions.
Yeah.
Okay. And the people, are they willing to, I mean, we heard it now about you that you were willing to spend for Tinder, but you are like also a well-traveled, open person. I mean, you work as a sexual wellness advocate. It's not that you are like the average of the people when it comes to sexuality. So are people in these markets willing also to pay for dating and porn sites?
Porn site is a difficult thing, okay? Porn site. But if you're talking about like the new porn sites, like Erica Last, Bellesa, ericalast.com, bellesa.com, they're porn made by women for women. So then the women will be willing to pay, because the thing is that there's also free porn, you know, don't get me wrong, like, but because it's harder for them to sustain themselves against competition, right? Like you're talking about all the big porn sites. So they tend to have a good following, and whereby people will pay for subscription, you know. And for dating websites, I would say that increasingly, if you think about it, because of COVID, there's no more socializing. You know, it has actually stopped a lot of it, and people have lost their youth. You know, like we have people like in Singapore, like 20 something, they're saying that they stopped celebrating their birthdays in the last 2 years because they refuse to acknowledge the COVID. And they're saying that they're missing out. They want to leave Singapore. So anything that right now they feel like they're missing out, you know, because of the COVID, they want to go out and meet people. They're getting older. And because in Asia, there's a huge emphasis on women who are above 35 years old. It's very hard to join a dating agency, because if you're 35, they're like, you know what, we cannot find you a match. Yeah.
So is it also, for example, when you are running a dating site and you are in Singapore, it's not making, or it's recommended, instead of saying like meet hot older single moms or MILFs, it's really that the people, because these women are maybe having anyway like a harder times and are maybe more open to sign up on dating sites, but to have it like as a more sales approach, it's more interesting to make advertising with younger women in Asia.
I would say, if you're talking about sales approach for paid services, it's a huge, marriages are not on the rise. A lot of people are getting divorced. A lot of people are choosing not to get married, and but there's also a lot of people who don't have time for dating. So this group of women, like if you want to look at it, the older women have higher spending power, because in Singapore, especially in Singapore and Hong Kong, for instance, women are highly educated. You know, English is a working language, I would say. So the women, the more you work, the more you climb up in your career, the more money you have. But you lose out on your time you spend on dating. So what do? You spend money to pay a lot of more money to pay a professional dating agency to set up dates, right? So these kind of dating agencies are on the rise. You're talking about paid, and it makes sense. rather than just relying on
And
Tinder.
what type of men are then listed in these dating agencies? It's like a younger, good-looking man, or is it like they are really trying to match something equal?
Equal. So there will be assortment of men. It's basically, think about it as very German in terms of like how we do our matchmaking, like, love. It's very German. It's very structured, very efficient. Okay. So you fill in a questionnaire and they do a interview. You put out your deal breakers, deal breakers and deal makers, your preferences, for instance. And then you go to like age, income, like whether you want kids. So these are things that you got to fill out, and then they will match it according to their database, right? So it's a very customized, personalized kind of matchmaking service that you're offering. That's why people are willing to pay so much money, because they have used the free ones.
How much costs a service like this to use? You know that?
Yeah. So depending on the number of dates, one date, can be as much as $500, $1,000. Yeah, it is not cheap, because you are basically paying for a certain database that's, a little bit more premium than your free dating apps like Tinder and Bumble, right? So if you're very serious, and there's a growing number of women in Southeast Asia who are very serious about finding a marriage, because marriage is still very high. We don't have civil unions like in Germany, in Spain, in France. We don't have, like, if you're with the partner for 5 years, we accord you the status like the equal partnership. We don't have that. You either get married or you don't. And if you don't enjoy those rights. Okay, so most women, Asian women, they tend to still, as much as they're very modern, okay, in terms of they would want to get married and have a family, or maybe have no kids, but they still want to find someone to get married to, and they want to find somebody with the right level of lifestyle, affluency, usually the income level and all these have to match, because the women, especially in Singapore and Hong Kong, earn very well. Okay, so there's but in the rest of Southeast Asia is very different. Like you're talking about Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Indonesia, Philippines. It's different. Okay, then the thing is that the women earning power is very different. Standard of living is very different. So when they look for partners, they may have a different set of expectations as well, right? Like for instance, if you look at it, they tend to look for partners sometimes as a way out of as a passport. It's also quite common for women in.
I mean, especially in Thailand, you see that. I was never in the Philippines, but from what I hear, they're very comparable. But especially in Thailand, it's like clear. I was in Thailand maybe like 12 times or so, and you walk there and you see the fat guy from Great Britain, or German, the Günther with the I don't know, with the flip flops and the socks, or something like the sandals and socks, and he's maybe like 55. He needs Viagra to get it going, and then he has like 20-year-old girl, and there are like services that agencies that take care that this woman can go with this man to Europe and live with them. And the girls are happy with that, because I mean, how often they have to have sex with them? Maybe one time per month. More often it will anyway not function anymore. And
Stefan, I wouldn't say whether they're happy, but they have chosen, or rather because of, you have to understand their story, right? Like you grow up in a country that's not as developed, and you don't have a lot of career options because it's a patriarchal society, right? There's not many options. And when you got to provide for your family members, because for us, filial piety is like there's always this comparison between Western society and Asian society. We are more family oriented, and Western society is seen as not. So there's this huge burden or responsibility. I wouldn't say burden, but sometimes it can be responsibility on the children to provide. So then the women, it doesn't matter whether you're guys or girls, okay? If you're a woman, then you got to provide, and you choose. It's like, because you choose to, instead of marrying for love, most of the time in such arranged marriages, it's not by choice. I don't think that they will willingly say that, I want to go to live in Great Britain or in Europe or in the US, to be so far away from their family. I don't think it's fair to say that, to be honest, but they do it anyways because you know they get the financial, they get a kind of financial stability, which then they use the money to send it back to their family.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So,
I saw that. I saw that. I
yeah.
mean, of course, in my life, I also met like men that were married to women like that, and it was always that they used money to send it back. One time they make a new dwelling in the village. The other time they pay some medical stuff. Of course, there is some bullshit also happening. They want extra money and they say, yeah, grandma is ill, and there is no grandma. But it's not only like this. It's also really used to arrive at the places where it should be. Hey, Janice, we are coming slowly but surely to an end. We are limited to 1 hour, even when we could speak here for the next 3. But we are both very chatty persons. This comes on top of this.
We can always do another episode, okay? I'm sure that can
Yeah,
come on.
actually, we should really do that. But of course, it's not only to entertain the people and to make advertising a bit for masters in cash. It's also that the person that we are speaking to can reach an audience that they would maybe not have. I think when somebody is watching this, they have a clear impression what you are doing, and also that you are highly qualified in this markets. But maybe you can summarize it also for the people. What services are you offering? What type of companies can reach out to you, should reach out to you when they want to do what? And like I said, your contact details will be linked. So they maybe reach out to you, or they reach out to me and I say like, okay, I make a connection.
Sure.
So please, stage is yours.
Okay, so essentially, my role is a business development consultant for sex tech and femtech space, and also any type of sexual wellness related type of companies, right? And I'm the first of its kind in Asia because I used to be in corporate, and then I switched to this about 5 years ago. That's why when it comes to the market, I'm one of the, I wouldn't say I'm one of the more recognized ones in the industry, and it's a small but growing community of sexual wellness in Singapore and in the region in Southeast Asia. And I happen to know the people all the way from the clinical professionals, the doctors, the therapists, all the way to the kink community, the sex toy shops and the kink community. So I'm very, very neutral, like as a consultant. So in terms of like, if you really want to put out your brands in Southeast Asia, you know, I'm your to-go-to person because I understand Southeast Asia, and we need to customize a strategy for branding, marketing, you know, to reach Southeast Asian markets. So that's what I do for a living, B2B. But the other part whereby I'm also branching out is I've been asked to give out a lot of interviews and to speak at conferences and stuff. So I'm also looking to host and looking for more paid engagements in those areas, whereby to talk about dating, love, sex, and sexuality in Southeast Asia, for instance. And then the last thing is obviously I will be co-producing like a talk show, a sexuality education talk show series.
So this will come. This is something that will come for sure. This show.
Yeah. This is something that I'm working on because I want to do something that is that can reach more people, that's more accessible. I'm very good at creating the platform, a safe space for people to come together and talk about these taboo subjects. And I want this to be, continuous. So I'm very happy to accept sponsorships, or any companies that's sex positive to come in, and they want to also promote sex positivity on content, not just on selling product. Because if you want to do business in Southeast Asia, you cannot just sell a product. You need to make sure that you do the right kind of content, because you need to change the mindset first before you can sell anything. It's very hard to convert a sales. It's very hard to convert into a sales. So this is something that for Southeast Asia market, like even for Singapore, it appears very modern and progressive, but it's a very tight market to penetrate, I have to say. But it is getting better, especially with the COVID. It has actually helped the sexual wellness industry in Singapore and in the rest of the world, I would say. Yeah.
I'm curious to see how the future will change. And like you said, a second episode would be really interesting because as progressive as everything is moving there, and also as progressive as how dynamic you are doing it with all your projects, I'm sure that in a year or so, you have way more to share there. Then we can speak maybe also a little bit about the affiliate scene in Singapore, if they are picking up these offers and this kind of things. The last point that I have on my agenda, that's why I always move my eyes a little bit, because I have an agenda. It's not that I'm like gaga or so. The last thing is the golden nugget. It's my favorite category in the Dating Show XXX. It's the best advice, business advice you can give to the people listening here that we have not heard already 1,000 times before. So what you would recommend the people as a business advice?
Okay, for business advice, if you want to do business, especially in Asia, it's all about the connections. Okay, in Chinese we call it 关系, which literally translates to connection. So be a great connector, and then you can fix deals up. So essentially, connections matter a lot.
And in these markets, maybe even more than in Europe.
Yes, I would say so. There's a lot of face value that you have to give and to understand the local culture. And then making this connection that's not just on numbers alone. You got to think about it like, the traditional way, and like you have to think about the connection as something that there is a certain cultural value to it. Yeah.
So one question about that. Every day I reach out maybe to 10 people that have never had a business with us. Maybe they know me, maybe they know the company, but maybe half of them never heard of me. Also, I get like 5 messages per day about something. A lot of stuff is not matching, not what I send out, not what I get. But sometimes there is a match and we start working without ever speaking one word, without ever seeing each other, without knowing anything. It's based a little bit on trust. The guy says like, hey, I have traffic. I say I have dating offers, and it works. So would that be in Asia, in Southeast Asia, more complicated because the people want to have like a personal intro? They need to know these people. They are maybe checking deeper if it's like honorable person.
Depending on the in Singapore, for instance, it's easy to make a formal introduction like this in Singapore. In China, Hong Kong, Malaysia, it's a little bit more like you get to know someone, introduced to you. In Indonesia as well. Okay, so there's still this part of like in Singapore, it's very business-like. It's run like a business, our economy. So your method, it works. Okay, but having that connection, getting to know the story, and I think it will help you to sustain a longer term relationship. That's what I'm saying. You can connect with someone very short, like not deep, right? Like just on the surface. But to have repeat business and to do something sustainably in the long run, okay, this connection, it should be made. We talk about after service. Think about it like, don't just do it like first thing and close it up. Once you close it, you have no repeat business. That's not going to work. So we always think about like, what do we do next? What do we do next? To value add. It's all about value adding and having the connection, having the story, having to get to know someone and how they work, right? The style. I think having an introducer in Southeast Asia especially works, or in Asia. And if you don't speak the language, for instance, like in China, it's one of the most difficult markets to break into. You have to speak the language.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. We have 1 minute before this cuts off automatically. So Janice, thank you very much. This was like very, very interesting, very educational. It was the first time that we are not really having so much focus on dating or people that are like poorly in the dating or adult stuff. It was like a more broad look on the Asian sexual and dating market. And I'm very sure that 99% of the people that will watch that will learn here something new. Yes. So if you want to enter this market, if you want to make it big, do it with the right people. Reach out to Janice. I link her details there. Yeah. And thanks again. It was amazing.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Thank you so much. Yeah, feel free to contact me. Okay, ciao. Bye.
Ciao.
Take care.